Hi, everyone. This is Clara Femia, the Managing Director at Optimize Hire. I'm here on Friday, April 10th with Dr. Nick Lobuglio, providing an update to the full-length webinar that we recorded on Tuesday, April 7th, around how small businesses can benefit from the recently passed CARES Act. So with that, I will hand it over to Nick.
Hi everyone, this is just a quick update based on what has changed or become more clear since we did a long version as these programs were being rolled out on Tuesday. Obviously, there's nothing underlying changing about what money is supposed to be available, but if you've listened to that, you know that every day there's still uncertainty and things are changing around how you're actually going about accessing it. So just at the end of the week here, we wanted to provide an update for anybody who listened to the long webinar, either the ones we did last week before anything was launched or on Tuesday. It's just like as of today, Friday, things are a little different. So in under 5 minutes, we're going to cover that. If you haven't listened to that, you should listen to one of those long ones from Tuesday first before listening to this. Okay, so the update Friday, it's 1 o'clock Eastern. More and more banks every day are accepting PPP applications because the SBA has been making lots of banks that maybe used to do small business loans or have never done them before, they're making more and more banks eligible to give them. So when we first did this webinar a week and a half ago, tons and tons of banks just weren't open to being small business lenders through the Section 7A loans. That is changing by the day. So even if your bank wasn't doing this on Monday or Tuesday, by today, Friday, your bank, who you bank with for your business, might be doing it. So it's still worth keeping in track of that if you haven't submitted a PPP application and figuring out if your bank is accepting it. The banks are also, again, every day, they're making their processes more clear, putting information on their websites around what kind of things they were going to ask for. A week ago, there was not a single bank in America that had put up this information. Now, most of the major banks have this information on their websites. We also talked on Tuesday about how Wells Fargo had to shut down their process because of rules from their scandal over the weekend, and that was really bad because they're, by some counts, the largest small business lender in America. On Wednesday, they got clearance from multiple federal agencies to start making these loans again. So if you listened on Tuesday and you're a Wells Fargo client, that was bad news on Tuesday. It's gotten a lot better, and they are now accepting applications. The first start checks for people who submitted on Friday, April 3rd, have started getting checks on Wednesday and Thursday of this week. It's still a very small minority. So even if your bank has told you everything is great about your application and they're planning to approve it, it's still only a very small percentage of people have actually gotten checks. But you're going to see every day more and more news around that of the businesses that are getting checks, because obviously the banks look good if they can get them out to you. The Small Business Administration looks good if they can get it out to you. So we're going to start seeing news of that every day now. Congressional leaders are very, very well aware that there are difficulties in these programs. Like, no one, except for the occasional Donald Trump update, is saying that the program is going super smoothly. Basically, everybody who's involved in these knows that there's still problems. Just going to link, because we talked about how last week, Marco Rubio, because he is the chair of the Small Business Committee within the Senate, there's a specific committee for helping small businesses and entrepreneurs in the Senate. He is still the best, most up-to-date resource because he seems to be comfortable with putting up information that is not complete. So this is an update he put out here this morning saying how many loans have been made, how much have been approved, who knows when all that money is actually going to hit bank accounts, but he's sort of making updates and he's talking about the problem. So if you listen to the full webinar, each of these will be clear to you what they're talking about, but it's still just sort of a state here on Friday where the legislators are trying to fix things, and you as a small business owner might be frustrated, but hopefully these things will be resolved in the coming days. Most banks are still only accepting applications from existing customers. So just like a week and a half ago and on Tuesday, this is still your own bank first and foremost when you are thinking about applying for one of these loans. There are some banks, this is a local Philadelphia bank, that's getting lots of news because they were willing to take the loans from everybody, while other banks are still having this thing where they'll only take applications from current customers. My advice on Tuesday remains the same, that if your bank is not doing PPP loans, you're best off trying to find a small bank in your community, like that bank that I just showed in Philadelphia, that's willing to take applications from people, in your area. Uh, it seems like the Treasury has approved even like these non-normal banks, like financial technology companies like PayPal, to start processing these. That is not happening. As of right now, you cannot go on PayPal and submit it. But as early as Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, that might be possible if you still haven't found a bank to take your application. It's still just generally, this rule is still true. It's been true for a week. These programs exist. You own a small business. It is in your interest to get this stuff submitted as soon as possible, because no one is still really exactly sure what's going to happen when these programs run out of money. That's what this point is related to, is that everyone knows that the $349 billion that was initially allocated to the PPP program, that is going to run out. It is going to be claimed. It might be next Tuesday, it might be next Wednesday, it might be a month from now. No one is sure. And what will happen immediately if Congress has not allocated more money is the banks are just going to have to stop telling you they can't take your application. Yesterday, the Republicans tried to do this thing. This is all over the national news today, if you're following this stuff. The Republicans wanted to basically just pass extremely quickly a unanimous vote to add more money just for the PPP. The Democrats said, we're not going to agree to that unless we include more money for the states and the healthcare system, the state governments that are also struggling. So the Republicans said, all we want is $250 for the PPP. The Democrats said, yes, we want more of that money to go to the PPP too, but it needs to be part of a larger package or we're not going to say yes. Nancy Pelosi in the House has also been hinting that she won't pass it through the House unless it includes these larger pieces of money. They are both blaming each other. The Republicans are blaming, Democrats seek more funds. Every Republican basically has been tweeting about how the Democrats are holding up this money for small businesses. The Democrats are tweeting about how the Republicans are holding up the money to the state governments and the healthcare system. So they're blaming each other, and who knows what will happen. That is, again, why I think that this money is going to come through, but it is in your best interest to get part of that initial $350 rather than hoping that you need this other $250 or more after that. And then the EIDLs, we have to talk about those. This has all been PPP so far. The EIDLs, the separate program, again, if you listen to our other webinar, that'll be clear to you how they're different. The EIDLs are a big mess, unfortunately. The Small Business Administration is totally overrun right now with those applications. The $10,000 grants have not really been coming through. Even a week and a half ago when we did our first webinar, we were saying that nobody knew when this 36-hour window of when you're supposed to get your grant money would start happening. That is still not happening with any reliability, that if you submit an application, you'll get 10,000. The national news press is struggling to report on these, I would say. Many of the stories, if you have been following this, even our webinars, you'll understand these programs pretty well. When I read what was published by the New York Times this morning, they're really just not grasping the facts here of how these programs are different, what the money is coming from for these EIDLs, what is supposed to be a grant versus what is supposed to be a loan. Hopefully you as a small business owner, if you're applying for one, is starting to grasp that. Hopefully our webinars have been helpful. The national press still doesn't. So there are weird and sometimes contradictory stories coming out around PPP funding, EIDL funding, what money is covering payroll costs, what money is just grant money, the EIDL money, how big the loans are. It's quite uncertain. So that's like the best I can do for everybody at 1 o'clock here on Friday, is to say that the more you understand these programs, this line has remained unchanged, the better you will be at understanding the news that's coming out and being able to apply for them. So hopefully, again, this is a slide from our last thing. We're not going to go over this because most of you listening will be familiar with it already. Different loans, different application processes, different administrations of them. Lots of things being covered in the news media about the CARES Act that have nothing to do with these small business programs. So the better you understand these planks, how they apply to your small business, hopefully, the better you can access these resources. Listen to our full webinar from Tuesday if you'd like. It's on our website, it's on YouTube. You can link to it there, and you just email either of us. Clara and I would be happy to send it to you. Listen to all that. We hope that everybody who listened last week, has already got an application in with their bank or another local bank. But if you haven't, if you're working on your payroll documents and stuff still, all we can say is the quicker that you can do it and get that into a bank, the better position you're going to be to get some of that money. Same thing we wish you every time. We hope that you and your families are all healthy and safe, and that the best we can be doing right now is helping you get some of this essentially free grant money to help your small business so that we can all get back to normal as soon as possible. Thank you very much, everybody.